Hey, Tyler Stalman. We're going to talk about the iPhone 12 again today. This time, which one is the best camera for your photography and video needs. We'll be comparing the 12 and the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max. There's a lot of similarities, but there are some important differences too, and we're going to try to figure out what they are. And thanks to this video's sponsor, Casetify, we're going to be looking at their brand new carbon fiber cases a little bit later. If you watched our camera reviews before, you'll know that we like to travel and go outside for this kind of thing, but if you look outside the window now, you'll see that it is minus 25 degrees Celsius in Calgary with lots of snow, not a lot of colors out there, so it's not ideal for camera tests. We came to Snap Photo Club instead, so we could shoot all this in studio. And travel, well, that's a tough one right now. So today we're gonna be shooting in studio with controlled lighting. For these first tests, we set up lights, we're in a totally controlled environment, and that way we can have the exact same photos on each of the different iPhones. And then we're gonna airdrop those photos to the iPad so we can zoom in to 100%, pixel peep a little bit, and see what the difference really is. What we're testing here is the 1X camera, like the normal camera that you're using for most things, and it should be exactly the same between the 12 mini, which we're looking at here, and the 12 Pro. They have the exact same camera, the photos look the same. And I'm looking at them big, like this is a 12.9-inch iPad, and yeah, I can't tell the difference. But there should be a difference between the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. The Max has a 47% larger sensor. That is a lot. It should make a real difference. But you know what? As I'm flipping back and forth looking at these, I can zoom in all the way. I'm not seeing a really significant difference. Can I even tell which is which? I don't think I can. And this is something that all of us phone reviewers noticed right away when these first came out, is that you take most photos and they look pretty similar, which is a little surprising. But you know what? That larger sensor is a lot more sensitive to light. It has a much higher maximum ISO. So in a setting like this, where we're on a tripod and the light is controlled, not a big difference. But there are some places where I'm hoping that we'll see a difference with that larger sensor. I got to give credit to Sebastian DeWitt for doing so much research on this when the iPhones first came out. He's a designer for the camera app Halide, and he did all the tests to kind of figure out like what's going on here. And the first thing he pointed out to me is that it looks like a lot of Apple's image signal processor on iOS is doing the same thing to both the iPhone Pro Max and the iPhone 12 Pro, and all of them. They're all being treated as if they have the same sensor, but they don't. So the effect is that there's the same amount of noise removal and smoothing that's happening on the 12 Pro Max, even though it may not need it. I would definitely check out Sebastian's article all about this, which will be linked in the description, but also when he came on the podcast to explain it all to me. He's a great guy, super smart, check him out. All right, there are some differences between the lens options available. The 1X normal wide-angle lens is the same across the 12 mini, the 12, and the 12 Pro. Then on the 12 Pro Max, it's a little bit better, like we discussed. Now, there is also the ultra-wide. This has been my favorite addition in years. We use it way more often than the telephoto lens, and that is exactly the same on all four variations of the iPhone 12. It's extremely wide, it's about 13 millimeters. It's not great in low light, but it did get better now that there is Deep Fusion, which does some intelligent combining of photos to make those low light photos look way sharper. This lens, this ultra wide, is where I'm hoping for the biggest improvements in next year's iPhone, because we use it all the time, and it's the least good of the three. Now, looking at the telephotos, if having an optical zoom is important to you, you're gonna have to be looking at either the 12 Pro or the 12 Pro Max, because the others will just do digital zoom. That just means it's cropping in on the photo. It's actually not zooming in at all. It's just cropping and enlarging the photo. I'm gonna say a lot of numbers here, but on the iPhone 12, it is a 2.0 lens, and on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it is a 2.2. So that just means that in lower light, the images get a little bit softer, the ISO needs to go higher, and the sensor is the same on both of them, so that slower lens does cause for slightly blurrier low light photos or noisier. So it depends how you like to use your zoom. If you're outside a lot of the time, and you're just trying to get the kids running across a field or whatever, the 2.5 might really come in handy. But if you're gonna be in lower light environments like this, maybe concerts, if we ever have those again, the iPhone 12 Pro might be the choice for you because it's a little bit better zoomed in low light. So Casetify is back to sponsor us one more time, and this time it's with their brand new carbon fiber cases. Now, I've showed you how protective Casetify cases are in the past. They've kept my phone safe from drops, scratches, everything. It's been totally fine, but now it's even a harder outside coating that looks super cool as well. As always, it's got their antimicrobial coating on the outside to keep it clean from any germs. And the cases are made from 50% recycled plastics, and the packaging is 100% recycled. And now that your iPhone 12 has MagSafe on it, you'll be happy to know that your Casetify Ultra Impact case is MagSafe compatible. It's the world's slimmest, most protective carbon fiber case out there. They've upped their innovation by engineering slim bumpers on the corners to make the case 6.6 foot drop proof. This means it offers extreme protection, or in their terms, 3 times military grade protection. Casetify is known for their amazing design, so the case is still super slim and not bulky. So keep your iPhone safe. Head to casetify.com/Tyler Stalman and you're gonna get 20% off. That link's also in the description below. And thanks again to Casetify sponsoring this video. All right, let's do some low light tests. This room is only lit by neon lights, and you might recognize it from the iPhone 12 review. So if you want to see what older phones like the 10 and 11 look like compared to the 12, that's the video for you. But here, we're going to be comparing the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max. That larger sensor and that extra ISO should allow us to have less motion blur when Anya is moving around in here. So if we take a look at the 12 Pro, if I zoom all the way in on her hair that's moving and in that fur there, this should be blurry. I mean, she's moving really fast in a really dark room. And if you're wondering how this applies to normal life, most homes are just lit by small lights like this. And any indoor photos of kids or pets are going to run into this problem all the time. And if we flip over to the 12 Pro Max, it is sharper. Actually see more of the definition in the bricks behind her and on the fur of her collar. But I do have to zoom in to see it. It's not completely jumping out at me while I'm zoomed out. Okay, but that larger sensor, it does have a small edge. It is a bit sharper. And actually, these photos are a good opportunity to point out something I missed in my original iPhone 12 review. If you zoom in, we can see these big ghosting elements that are coming from the lights on the other side of the frame. This happens all the time, and it shouldn't. I don't know why it's so bad. I'm sure Apple's engineers also think it's a problem. We've all seen it. Hopefully it gets better. So with the standard camera, with default settings, there's a marginal difference. To see a bigger improvement, we have to switch over to RAW. Now, shooting RAW has some complications, and it kind of is a Pro thing. So this is when the Pro name for the iPhones makes a bit of sense. You have to do some additional work afterwards to really see a benefit from RAW, but Apple does have their new ProRAW, which makes it much easier to work with those iPhone RAW files, which previously were really messy to adjust afterwards and sometimes looked bad. Now, they look good. What's been interesting in the months since the 12 was released is that it's inconsistent when I'm actually seeing a difference with that larger sensor. There are times when certain lighting conditions really show it off and you can tell it looks much better. I'm finding in this controlled environment here, like it's not really showing up. So something to consider. Your mileage will vary. Sometimes it's a huge difference, sometimes it's none. This is just all stuff for you to consider. If you're using your phone for all your photos, you might want them to be as perfect as possible. But it won't be a massive difference. It's not like upgrading to an SLR or a mirrorless camera. The other thing we can compare is night mode. And yes, the Pro Max does better. It has a much higher ISO. It is a lot more sensitive. And so it doesn't need to have as much noise to have a sharper image. One difference that's maybe so obvious I don't need to say it is that the screens are bigger on the bigger phones. This is a big part of photography. And actually, Anya and I end up choosing different size phones because of it. She really prefers to have the bigger screen so she can see the largest version of the photo possible. For me, I kind of prefer the smaller phones because it's a little easier to hold while you're taking the photo or to manipulate with one hand if something's in the other. For example, like the selfie, the smaller your phone is, the easier to hold it out there like that. So that part is completely personal, and I think you're gonna have to go and pick up a phone and hold it, move it around, see how you feel about it, because everybody has a very different opinion on what the right size of a phone should be. So after running those tests today, I think we've realized that the most important thing when you're choosing your iPhone is the way that it feels in your hand. That is a bigger priority than the actual camera specs. I think with the iPhone 12 Pro, they have made the most pro camera yet, because there are some improvements, but only professionals will really appreciate them. But the good news is you can't really buy a bad iPhone 12 this year. They all have great cameras and they're all going to perform really well. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Looking at my stats, I know a lot of you have not subscribed lately, even more than when other people say that in their videos. It's very true here. So hit the subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next video. This is a fake microphone, by the way. Although there's actually a plug here. I wonder, I guess I could use this mic. Let's see what it sounds like. Testing a fake, oh, it's real. This is a real mic. Oh, it's a pile. Oh, this is a real mic. I've heard these. Hello, vintage microphone. This is what the real mic sounds like.